DBT, Interpersonal Effectiveness 3. So far in the Interpersonal Effectiveness module, we've looked at objectives effectiveness, so getting what we want using our Dear Man skill, and also at relationship effectiveness, so improving the relationship by using our Give skill. In this session, we'll look at our self-respect effectiveness using our Fast skill. Self-respect effectiveness skills help us to keep or improve our self-respect, whilst at the same time trying to get what we want. It means acting in a manner that maintains or increases your self-respect after an interaction. For example, some people lose respect for themselves if they cry and/or get extremely emotional during an interpersonal interaction, or if they give in rather than sticking up for themselves. Other people might lose respect for themselves if they get angry, mean, or threatening. Self-respect effectiveness is always needed in any interaction. So FAST stands for be fair, no apologies, stick to values, and be truthful. The first FAST skill is to be fair to yourself and the other person in your attempts to get what you want. It's hard to like yourself over the long haul if you consistently take advantage of other people. You might get what you want, but you risk losing respect for yourself. Validate your own feelings and wishes as well as the other person's. It's difficult to respect yourself if you're always giving in to others' wishes and never sticking up for your own beliefs. Think about the impact that always prioritising others' needs over your own can have on your self-respect. The A in FAST stands for no apologies. When apologies are warranted, they're appropriate. But this skill means to not over-apologise. How often do we find ourselves saying sorry for being alive, for making a request, or for having an opinion, or for disagreeing with someone? Apologies simply mean that you're admitting you're wrong, saying that you are the one that's making the mistake. This reduces your sense of mastery over time. Excessive apologies can hurt relationships as they reduce your self-respect and they get on people's nerves, but apologising at the right time can enhance a relationship. The S in FAST stands for stick to values. Avoid selling out your values or integrity to get your objective or to keep a person liking you. Be clear on what your values are and stick to them. A conflict between values, i.e. what others want you to do and what you think is right, is common. It's difficult to maintain your self-respect when you give in to others. It can be difficult to stand up for yourself, but if you don't, over time it wears down relationships and eventually destroys them. The last skill in FAST is to be truthful. Don't lie or act helpless when you're not, or exaggerate. A pattern of dishonesty over time erodes your self-respect. Even though one instance might not hurt or might be necessary, dishonesty is a harmful thing in the long run. Also, acting helpless is the opposite of building mastery. Mastery is the opposite of passivity. It means doing things that are difficult, going outside of your comfort zone, so completing a challenge. Helplessness is the enemy of mastery. Overcoming obstacles is one route to mastery. Think about this quote. Successful people do not fall down any less than unsuccessful people. They just get back up more often. So falling down is inevitable. Getting up is mastery. No one can take away your self-respect unless you do. Balancing what you want and what the other person wants or needs might be the best path to self-respect. We can use our Give skill to improve self-respect by improving relationships. However, if the other person is consistently abusive towards you, your self-respect is inevitably going to corrode, and you might need to end such relationships. Learning to judge the intensity of how to ask or say no is a very important skill. What works in one situation might not work in another or at a different time. For example, being pushy might get your child to do the washing up, but it might not work with your partner. Or asking your mum to make you a special meal might be alright once in a while, but not when she's ill, for example. You need to think through whether it's appropriate to ask for something or say no. This is why there are different levels for each. It helps to analyse each situation. Asking or saying no could be very firm and intense, or flexible and willing to accept how things are. At the low intensity end of the scale, we'd be looking to let go or give in. We wouldn't ask for something, and we wouldn't hint. And we definitely wouldn't say no. We'd do what the other person wanted without being asked. At the other end of the scale, so high intensity, we'd be staying very firm. We'd ask and we wouldn't take no for an answer. And if someone asked us to do something, we'd say no and wouldn't do it. There are a few factors you should consider when looking at your options about how intensely to ask or say no to something. The first one is capability. Increase the intensity of asking if the other person has what you want. Increase the intensity of saying no if you can't give them what they want. Your priorities should also be considered. When an objective is really important, the intensity should be higher. But when the objective interferes with a relationship or self-respect, then the intensity should be lowered to the degree that the relationship is important. Another factor to consider is self-respect. You should increase the intensity of asking if you usually do things for yourself and are careful to avoid acting helpless. You should increase the intensity of saying no if saying no won't result in you feeling bad about yourself, and if wise mind says no. You should also consider authority. Increase the intensity of asking if you're responsible for directing the other person or telling him or her what to do. Increase the intensity of saying no if what the other person wants from you is not appropriate. We should also consider our long-term versus short-term goals. Increase the intensity of asking if being submissive will result in peace but create problems in the long run. Increase the intensity of saying no if giving in will get you short-term peace but not a long-term relationship you wish to have. It's also important to consider if your request is timely. Increase the intensity of asking if this is a good time to ask, so if the other person is in the mood for listening or paying attention or likely to say yes. Increase the intensity of saying no if this is not a bad time for you to say no. Wise mind can be used to decide when to ask, say no, or push for what you want, as well as pros and cons.